practice continues on Wednesday, and it's down to the final 5 now, all trying to impress Sir Alan. But how much do you really know about them? A special programme finds out at 10:45 tonight. Now on BBC One, Crimewatch.
Tonight on Crimewatch.
Oh no, no, don't, no, please don't, no!
The successful businesswoman who was robbed and kidnapped.
I thought that was the end. I thought that's the end of my life.
Will you know the gang? Hello and welcome to Crimewatch. We're live and the studio, as you can see, is packed with detectives from around the UK, all hoping that your call will help solve a major crime. Over here, we've got a team from Lancashire investigating the armed robbery and kidnap of a successful businesswoman. She survived the ordeal and talks us through what happened. Up here, there's a team from Northern Ireland hoping to solve the murder of Patrick Devine. This is him. He was a sheep farmer from County Derry. He was shot 9 times at the farmhouse where he lived. Can you shed light on the motive? Can you name the killers? And this team from the Manchester Murder Squad hope that someone watching will hold the key to a murder dating back to 1971. Chances are the killer is still alive and still out there. And as always, Rav is here with his wall of most wanted. Evening, Rav.
Evening.
And I'm going to be joined in the studio by the taxi driver who survived this horror. Appalling. We need to find out who did that. And Matthew Amrallawala has the story of how police solved a major crime. What have you got for us this month?
Well, we're looking at the case of a blackmailer who tried to extort millions from Tesco by sending letter bombs to its customers.
All very involved. We'll get the details later. But our first reconstruction tonight is set in the heart of leafy Lancashire. Certainly not the sort of place you'd expect for an armed robbery and a kidnap. The victim is a successful businesswoman who found herself face to face with 5 masked men. She ended up in the boot of a car. She was lucky to survive. Here, she talks us through what happened.
I have had my own business for some 15 years. I've worked hard, I've worked long hours, I've taken risks. Just because I have been successful, I don't feel that justifies anybody doing what they did to me. Went out through the back door to put some rubbish in the bin, and I noticed a vehicle at the bottom of the road. Thought it was quite peculiar because it's not a through road, it is a public footpath.
Close the curtains! You upstairs with me! You over there! Check them drawers! Make sure she shuts up!
I was absolutely petrified because I realised there's 5 guys in my home, masked, hooded, they were holding me down on the stairs.
Right. Where is this money?
What?
Where's the safe?
I don't have a safe! I don't keep cash here!
Tell me where the safe is!
I don't have a safe!
Within a short period of time, I actually felt I wasn't going to get out of that, and not in one piece, and perhaps not even alive.
Right. I'm going to give you one more chance. Tell me where the safe is.
I don't have a safe!
Right, get your knife out.
No! Oh,
They were asking where the jewellery was, where other watches were, where the cash was in the house, and that I must have cash. They were also telling me not to struggle, because if I did struggle, they'd hurt me more, because I was struggling. I was trying to move away from them. Of course, I wanted to get up. I wanted to press the alarm. I wanted to somebody to know somewhere what was happening to me.
Stop it! No, just get off!
Right, I've had enough of this. Get her in the boot.
What? Oh, no, no, don't, no, please don't, no. I'm claustrophobic,
Just
please.
get her in the boot.
Oh, no.
You guys keep looking for that safe.
Shut up.
Get in here. Get in the boot. Get in.
Being in a boot of a car is absolutely horrendous. You feel like you can't breathe, you don't know what they're thinking, you don't know what's happening. Am I going to be abandoned and stuck in there? Well, perhaps nobody will find me. After I'd been in the boot for probably 5 minutes, it seemed forever, they drove back to my house.
Get out.
I could only assume that they brought me back because they still thought I had cash and they still wanted more.
Where is the safe?
OK, it's at my mum's house. She looks after it. There's probably about 20k in there.
Does anybody else live there?
My dad died last year. She's on her own.
Everybody in the car now! You best be telling the truth.
My brother, Jonathan, was actually staying at my mum's at the time, so I thought he might know what to do.
So what's in the safe?
I told you, 20 grand.
What about watches?
Yeah, there's a gold pocket watch that used to belong to my granddad.
Oh, it touch that. That's sentimental.
Yeah, love.
Cheers. You better tell me the truth, you know, or else you're gonna.
I was hoping Jonathan would save the day. I was hoping he would see the car with me in, that he'd raise the alarm.
Bloody hell, whose is that van?
It's all right, it's my brother's. He's not in. Look, if you let me go, I'll get the money for you.
No chance. Ring her. And don't alarm her. Put it on speaker.
Hello?
Mum, it's me.
Hey, love, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, just at home. Listen, I need 20,000 from the safe. I've got to pay a contractor.
What?
Mum, I need 20,000. Can you get it for me?
I don't have that kind of money here, Cheryl. Where are you?
I'm at home. I'm at home, Mum.
Stop this, I'm going in.
Jonathan, can you come here, love?
You're a liar. There's a huge bloke in there.
Please, I can get you the money.
Oh, it's too late. We're just gonna get rid of you.
The attackers were very, very angry. I really thought that was going to be it. Throat cut, face slashed, I had no idea. Thought that was the end, thought that's the end of my life.
You stupid bitch! What are we gonna do with her now, eh?
Let's drown her, man.
Yeah, come on. I'll drown her! Yeah!
Please don't.
I will, I'll drown you!
I know some guys who can get you the money. In my phone. Look, in my phone, look. The names are...
Those names the attacker saw in Cheryl's phone caused an interesting reaction. It could have saved her life. Now, I can't tell you the names of those two people, but what I can tell you is they are connected with bouncers who operate in the Manchester area. The robbers recognised those names and they panicked.
No way! You're blagging us!
She's not, you know. The names are here.
Bloody hell! We've got to get rid of her quick!
The ordeal was absolutely terrifying. and it's something I still find difficult to believe happened. Materially, obviously, I've lost jewellery, but I think I've lost a lot of myself as well.
Very traumatic. Well, I'm joined by D.I. Brian King, you're in charge of the investigation. Evening, and thanks for joining us. This was a planned attack, presumably?
Yes, Kirsty, this was very much a planned attack. Where the offence took place is well off the beaten track. It's not the kind of place that you just drive past routinely. They knew that she'd been a successful businesswoman, they knew where she lived, and they waited for her to come home.
And were they looking for specific things when they went to her house?
Yes, they were. As soon as they went in, first and foremost, it was planned because each had a role to play.
Right.
And when they went in, one person took charge and started to ask for the watches, for jewellery, and also cash from the safe as well.
Okay, can we talk through the specifics of what was actually stolen? There were a pair of, I think they were brilliant cut diamond stud earrings,
yes,
and something exactly like this, which is really distinctive. I mean, it's much, can you describe it to us? It's much bigger than a normal diamond cross that somebody might have.
Yes, as you can see, it's quite a large cross. There aren't that many around in the normal shops. It's not the kind of thing you'd buy in a high street jeweller's.
And also the chain that it's on is also made up of diamonds all the way around. How much is this worth?
Certainly in excess of £15,000, a very expensive piece of jewellery.
Certainly is. What do we know about the attackers?
Well, the attackers are 5 males, dark-skinned, olive-skinned, we believe, about 5'11" to 6 foot, wearing ski masks as well. Some had the holes in, some had the mouth cut out.
Right.
Possibly from the Manchester area. Cheryl was quite confident that they had a Manchester accent and maybe connected with the Salford area as well.
Right. Tell me then a little bit more about the thing with the phone. What was that? I mean, that was quite a strange bit in the whole evening, that suddenly she showed them the phone with the names in her contacts pad, and everything went a bit pear-shaped from there on in for them.
It could have gone pear-shaped for Cheryl, but thankfully, by actually making sure that she referred to those names, I think it actually saved her life.
Okay. And we can also say that there is a reward available.
There is a reward, yes.
Okay, for conviction on this. Thanks very much for now, Brian.
Thank you.
For more information on the reward leading to the arrest of the gang, the recovery of the stolen items, you can log on to our website. If you can help us, please do by calling us here in the studio. The number's up on the screen, or you could call the independent charity Crime Stoppers anonymously. Their number, 0800 555 111. Now, here's Rav with some villains caught on camera.
Right, here we go. Watch closely, and if you recognise anyone, get dialing.
It's December, and a busy Saturday afternoon in this Swindon co-op. In walk 2 dodgy-looking blokes. They join the queue and make a bad job of looking inconspicuous. The one at the back tries to keep his head down. The other is clearly enjoying himself. They quickly get bored of queuing. One leaps up on the counter and lunges at the manager. He then takes the female cashier out of the way while his mate fills up on fags and cleans out the tills. Know them? Shop them. Another robbery, this time at a building society in Middleton, Rochdale, in February. The robber throws a plastic bag at the cashier, points a gun at her and tells her to fill the bag with cash. Despite the gun, she's having none of it and presses the panic button. The alarm sounds, the gunman gets spooked, the cashier hands back his empty bag and he leaves with nothing. Not much of a disguise, hardly a criminal mastermind. Who is he? Here are 3 men barging their way into the home of an elderly lady in Holston, West London, back in March. They've got no shame. They're after her money. She's kept by the stairs while the house is searched. Targeting a defenceless elderly lady in her own home. You can't get much lower than that. We need to know where these 3 cowards are tonight. Outside a nightclub in Old Street, East London, and the man walking towards us is looking for trouble. Half an hour before, he was escorted out of the club by one of the bouncers. Now he's back, and he's armed. He hovers by the entrance, looking and waiting for the bouncer who threw him out. When he sees him, he goes for his gun. The crowd takes cover. He fires 3 shots into the club before running off. It was a miracle no one was hurt. Take a good look at him again. This is him earlier in the night as he entered the club. This could easily have been a murder. We need to find him before he uses that gun on someone else.
Think you know anyone? Well, call us here in the studio. The number's on your screen now. Or maybe you can text us on 63399. Just type crime, space, and then your message. It's really important to leave that space or your message won't get through.
Now, if you need a second look at tonight's CCTV, it's all on our website, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. Still ahead, who murdered Patrick Devine, a sheep farmer from County Londonderry? He was shot 9 times whilst eating his evening meal at home.
And the story of how police caught the Tesco bomber, an extortionist obsessed with money and secret codes. He took on Britain's biggest supermarket chain, demanding millions of pounds. But he was caught thanks to a fire at a local postbox.
And I'll be joined in the studio by the taxi driver who survived this. Right now, a case that's been all over the news recently. It's the murder of Special Constable Nisha Patel Nasri. She was killed on the 11th of May 2006. 9 days later, detectives enlisted the help of Crimewatch. Well, last week, along with 2 others, Nisha's husband, Fadi, was found guilty of her murder. Turns out that Fadi was having an affair with a prostitute. He arranged to have his wife murdered so that he could claim her life insurance. Fadi's attempt to evade detection was pretty audacious. He even did a special interview for Crimewatch as part of the appeal.
It's completely changed my life. You know, there's no words that can explain what it has done. But if anyone knows anything, I'm hoping with this interview that it will bring some results. It could have been an accident. It could have been self-defense. It could have been anything. And I'm hoping it will come forward.
Well, you can watch a lot more of our exclusive interview with Fadi Patel Nasri on our website. The address, bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. She's going to be sentenced later this month. Now, this is Dorothy Lydon. She was just 17 when someone murdered her as she made her way home after a night out with friends. It happened on the outskirts of Manchester city centre way back in 1971. Well, for years, everyone locally believed one particular man was responsible, but recent DNA developments have proved otherwise. The killer is still out there. Tonight, these detectives hope someone watching will break their 37-year silence and tell us what they know.
How can I go forward when I don't know which way I'm facing?
Mum? Mum?
The little girl I found the body.
Right. What have we got then?
Sir, name's Dorothy Lydon, 17 years old. Best guess is that she was attacked late last night, or possibly the early hours of this morning.
Any murder weapon?
She appears to have been hit on the head. Some sort of heavy object, possibly a brick, piece of concrete. We're still searching the scene.
How about robbery then?
Possible, but her bag's been dumped. And we found this in her back pocket. Money's still in it.
Any sign the motive was sexual?
We'll have to wait till the lab boys get here.
What's that towel doing over there?
The
police discovered that 17-year-old Dorothy Lydon had been raped and beaten to death. She was on her way home after a night out with friends. They'd been to see the Motown legend, Jimmy Ruffin.
Makes me feel so good to be needed by you. It's wonderful.
A towel used by the singer was thrown into the crowd at the end of the performance. It was Dorothy who managed to catch it.
Well, you don't have to go all the way to my house. I'll get out here, I'll get a night bus from Piccadilly Gardens. It'll be a bit cheaper.
But for some reason, Dorothy never did get that night bus. She decided to walk home, and it was on this short journey that she was murdered on waste ground behind a pub.
The police investigation was massive. Detectives used billboards, even the clothes Dorothy had been wearing, to try and jog memories. Detective Superintendent Martin Bottomley is investigating the case now.
We know it was a massive inquiry at the time. Over 4,000 people were interviewed. Police knocked on another 4,000 houses. They set up roadblocks in the area. You know, this crime devastated Manchester. It was a massive inquiry.
Dorothy grew up in the Harper Hay area of Manchester. She was the eldest of 7 children.
So how did you and the family deal with things after Dorothy was killed?
We never spoke about it because we didn't think we was allowed to, or in case we upset my mum and dad.
That's an awful long time. And then what happened 5 years ago then to start talking about it?
My mum died, and we found all the a suitcase of Dorothy's with all the things in.
In that suitcase were press cuttings relating to Dorothy's murder. They included pictures of this man, Trevor Hardy. He became the prime suspect after confessing to 3 similar murders in the same area. Trevor Hardy denied killing Dorothy. The family never believed him. After all these years, they went back to the police for answers.
He'd never been convicted of it, so we wanted to know why he'd never been convicted.
The reason was police had simply no way of knowing whether Hardy was involved or not. That is until now.
In 1971, a press photographer unwittingly captured some vital evidence.
You're right. There does appear to be signs of struggle around here.
Bloody hell. Are you ever late for anything? Who told you about this then, eh? Now listen. When we've moved the body, you can take as many photographs as you like. You can even take my photo. In the meantime, you give it a rest, right?
And these are the original photographs taken by that press photographer. And in them you can see detectives collecting samples. Now, when the case was reopened all these years later, they discovered that these samples are still in existence. But would they contain DNA proof of Dorothy's killer?
Forensic scientists began working on the original samples taken from the crime scene. Given their age and condition, the results seemed unlikely.
Against all the odds, a DNA result came back from the lab. The results were conclusive. Trevor Hardy was not the killer.
We know Trevor Hardy is a monster. He's still in prison now. He's got a whole life sentence and he will never be released. But I have to say, we've eliminated him from this murder. It wasn't him.
So if it wasn't Hardy, who did kill Dorothy Lydon?
There is still somebody out there that murdered Dorothy, and hopefully this appeal tonight will jog someone's memory and somebody will phone up.
It's incredibly sad, isn't it? Justice for Dorothy and her family is certainly long overdue. I'm joined by Detective Superintendent Martin Bottomley. We saw you there in the film, Martin. 1971. How can people possibly help?
Well, I'm sure people had suspicions about the time, about a friend or a relative, a husband or a boyfriend, and they probably dismissed them because they thought the killer was Trevor Hardy.
Ah.
But he wasn't. We know he wasn't. All we need is the name of the real killer. We can take a simple DNA test, and if that person's innocent, we'll eliminate them.
Do you know, that's crucial, isn't it? Because people might think, you know, I'm not going to call because I'm not sure. You can be sure, because all you need to know is to go and check that person, check their DNA against the information you have, and they will be discounted.
Absolutely. People can ring in anonymously. That's what we need, just one name.
It's really vital that. Let us clarify what you do know about the killer. What can you tell us?
Well, we know Dorothy was walking home about 2:30 a.m. on the 25th of April 1971. There was an argument which was overheard by a licensee, and the killer attacked her, raped her and brutally savaged her, really.
Well, you say that he raped her. I mean, do we know the motive? Was the motive purely sexual as far as you're concerned?
It was sexual, yes. We know the killer would have been involved in criminality at the time, probably local to the area, and of course now he'd be in his late 50s or early 60s.
So it was the 25th of April 1971. It's a long way back, people have to remember. What could they remember about what was happening in the local area around about that time?
They may remember that was the night of the census, which only happens once every 10 years, obviously.
They might have been filling in their forms
Yes,
that
absolutely.
night.
Jimmy Ruffin was in town, but people in Manchester, in that local area, will have been shocked. This devastated that area of Manchester.
So as far as you're concerned, it's absolutely vital. Somebody must have known something that was out of place, and as you say, they might have just discounted it.
Absolutely.
And they need to get in touch with us. Okay, if you can give us a name, then do call us here in the studio. If you have a little bit of doubt, they can be discounted by all the officers here. The number is up on the screen now. Here's Rav with some of the UK's most wanted.
Last month, with your help, 2 of the most wanted were arrested. One was charged with murder, the other for firearms offences. Well, let's hope we do even better with this lot. First up is Douglas Adam, and he's wanted in connection with child sex offences. He was charged but jumped bail and hasn't been seen since. You might also know him as William Murray or Andrew Sword. He's originally from Kilmarnock, but where is he tonight? Now, Daniel Cooper is number 2, and he's wanted for supplying heroin. He was charged in 2002 but jumped bail and was thought to have fled the country, possibly to Spain or Italy. He may now, though, be back in the UK. Cooper's 27 and has connections to Camberley and Sandhurst. 3 is Cecilia Scott. Police investigating organised immigration crime want to speak to her about the theft of hundreds of blank birth certificates. Originally from Jamaica, she's connections to London. She also uses the surnames Tomlinson and Sweeney. Now, number 4 is wanted for an aggravated burglary in Bromley in Kent last August. Now, we think his name is Mustafa Selmani, but he's got a long list of aliases, including Alessandro Castellani, Nadir Tayeb and Mikel Martinez. He's known to have worked in a pub in Bromley and has links to West London. Well, if you can help, then don't wait, phone or text the numbers on your screen now. And this delightful bunch are also on our website, bbc.co.uk/Crimewatch, and they'll stay there until they get caught. So it's worth a look in case you missed any from previous programmes.
When a murder shows all the signs of being premeditated, you know, it's carefully planned, carefully executed, there is usually an obvious motive. That's not so in our next case. 4 years on, and police still don't know why someone would want to kill Patrick Devine. He was a sheep farmer from County Londonderry. Well, hopefully in the next few minutes, someone watching will be able to shed light on who did it and why they did it.
This is where it happened. The house has been sealed since 2004. No one has been in since. Patrick was a farmer. He was very, very hard working. He lived here alone. He lived a very frugal lifestyle, a very modest lifestyle, although Patrick was very wealthy. He's obviously a religious man. As you can see, he would have sat here, looked out the window to the lovely countryside. He would have sat here eating his meal. It was a modest meal of potatoes, cabbage, and a little bit of meat. It was the last thing that Patrick would have expected, and absolutely no reason to believe that anything like this would happen to him. Come on, boy. Come on. Come on here.
Hey! Okay, let's go.
I pulled up beside the Land Rover. And as soon as I pulled in, I noticed the window broke. First thing I seen was the feet. Something you'd never get over. He was white, just real white. I knowed he was dead. I put my hand down, just felt his hand. It was ice cold. It was just awful experience.
Do you think that they could go into his own home and murder him the way they did while he was sitting having tea in his own home is unthinkable. Patrick was always full of life, full of energy. He had everything to live for. To us, Patrick was a kind and lovable person with a big heart. Nothing was never too much bother for him. Whether it was working on the farm or caring for the patients in the Waterside Hospital.
Well, Patrick nursed. He worked as a nurse in a geriatric hospital in near Derry City. And Patrick was popular with the patients there. He was popular with the other staff.
Hello, Maggie. How are you?
Oh, hello, Nurse Pat.
So he was a very caring person.
That's a cool director. I'll never forget the last days, you know. He just stood at the door and he said to me, I'll see you tomorrow. And I never got a chance to see him again.
Can't know why anybody would want to shoot a man at a table sitting down and taking his dinner. Like that.
Nothing justified the murder of Patrick Devine. Nothing justified it. And I said at the funeral that those who sowed the wind would reap the whirlwind. In other words, there would be a price to pay for what was done to Patrick Devine. I still believe that. If members of the community know who did this, then I think they are duty-bound to speak to the police. Someone's conscience must be bothering them about what happened to Patrick Devine, and they should have the courage to come forward and tell what they know.
Well, DCI Gary Crawford joins me now. Someone's conscience must be bothering them, the man said. It sure must. An auxiliary nurse, a sheep farmer, apparently minding his own business. Why on earth would somebody want to shoot him dead in his own front room?
We believe it's jealousy. Patrick was a very successful sheep farmer and businessman. He owned a lot of land, and we believe the motive was jealousy in relation to that.
And would he then have known his killers? 2 or 3 of them, we think, came to kill him that day. Would he have known them?
Well, we certainly believe that he knew the people who would have set him up. We believe there's people in the community who knew who Patrick set them up.
Really?
Yes, and we asked those people to come forward now and contact the police, and the family deserves justice and need justice. We need people in the community to come forward and give us information.
It looked from your reconstruction there, Gary, like, I mean, this was very cold and clinical, wasn't it? 3 men, 2 men possibly, across a field, there to do a job. Would the word assassination be too dramatic for what happened here?
No, I don't think that is too dramatic. I think this is a contract killing. This is a conspiracy involving a number of people, and somebody has set Patrick up. We believe people in the community know who set Patrick up, and we need them to come forward.
I mean, this is a grudge gone bad, then, is what you think it is, and therefore you think the clue to it lies in... We saw that helicopter shot. I mean, it's a small community, a farming community, presumably a very close-knit community.
Yes, it's a very close-knit community, and I know the majority of the people in the community abhor what has happened to Patrick, but I believe there's a small amount of people who've heard this talked about, heard this discussed, know what has happened, and we need them to come forward and tell the police what has happened.
I mean, we had an extraordinary insight there into the crime scene back in 2004, pretty much apart from your investigation left as you found it. Forensically, was there stuff of significance there for you, briefly?
Yes, there was forensic evidence found in 2004, but it's important that as the forensic has developed, we have had further success with this, and we believe developments in science will lead us to the finding of Patrick's killers, but we desperately need the community to help us with this.
You do need that part of the jigsaw. I can just also briefly say his family is offering a reward, £10,000 for the arrest and conviction.
Yes, that's correct, £10,000 for the successful arrest, conviction and prosecution of Patrick's killers.
Thanks very much, Guy. Do call us. The number's up on the screen. You could call Crime Stoppers too anonymously, 0800 555 111. Now here's Rav with details of some recent cases that you've helped to close.
Yeah, and first up, a great result on a story we featured last May.
This was a shocking case of harassment. A man who just wouldn't leave his girlfriend alone.
The first phone call was just the threats, oh, I'm going to beat you up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to smash your flat up, I'm going to take your daughter away. And then the second phone call was, I'm outside your flat, if you don't come home, I'm going to smash the door off, I'm going to smash the house up, and I'm going to murder your dog.
These weren't empty threats. He'd trashed the flat, and when Sharon came home, the dog was dead.
They told me there was a Valentine's card on the dog's body.
Linus Rosil was arrested and charged after an officer spotted him on the street in Stoke Newington, London. He pleaded guilty to threats to kill and is now in prison.
Now, back in December, we reconstructed a series of violent sex attacks dating back to the early 90s. One victim was just 14 at the time. She takes us through what actually happened.
I just sensed him behind me as he got closer.
Sit down on the floor or I'll kill you.
Oh, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me.
Local media dubbed him the sports centre rapist. What we didn't know at that time was he was also responsible for a very serious sexual assault in Portsmouth 4 years earlier. This time he attacked a teenager in a sheltered seating area on the promenade at the seafront in Southsea. He's evil. What gives him the right to take someone's innocence away?
Well, following our appeal, police caught this man. Here he is, Derek Young. Now, DNA proved he was the attacker, and he's been sent to prison for 15 years. Now, detectives believe that Young may be responsible for other attacks. If you can help, please call Hampshire Police on 0845 045 4545.
Just over a year ago, we featured the murder of Beverley Parkhouse. She was found dead in her father's home in Ogmore Vale, South Wales.
Time to get up. Shake a leg as a good girl. Bev, come on, love. Time to get up. Come on, love. Time to get up.
Beverly's tragic death was no accident. It was murder. She'd been suffocated and someone had tried to cover it up by starting a fire. Police suspected the killer was someone that Beverly knew. It wasn't long before detectives discovered that Beverly was having an affair with this man, Royston Moore. He was found guilty of her murder and sentenced to life.
Well, we return now to a case that we still need help with. A year ago, someone booked a taxi from a phone box in Eastleigh in Hampshire. Cabby Derek Fletcher took the job. I'm going to be speaking to him in a minute. It's a journey he'll never forget. He was strangled, set on fire, and left for dead.
Stoneham Lane, mate!
Yeah.
Do you mind pulling over, mate? I'm going to think I'm going to be sick.
Feel a bit better now?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah.
Right, let's get on. Don't be sick in the cab, whatever you do.
Minutes later, the cab pulled over a second time.
Echo 1 to base.
Derek, you were watching that there. Can't be a very pleasant experience for you. What was it like to wake up and find yourself on fire?
Well, just total shock. I mean, I hadn't really got a clue what was going on, but pretty quickly I decided I had to do something. I managed to get out of the car, douse the flames, and cool my leg with water that was in the boot of the car.
Yeah, which, I mean, in a sense, you saved your own life there,
I
bet.
so, yeah.
Let's take a look at some of the injuries. Take us through what we're seeing here.
This is showing my inside right thigh, which took the brunt of the flames of the fire.
That's the skin literally sort of burnt
Exactly,
off
just burnt
your leg.
off, totally, that's right. It's left me with scarring to this day.
And is it true that the doctor said at some point you could actually have lost your leg?
Yeah, some infection during the operations that could cause them to think that.
And tell me, how's the recovery been? I mean, presumably, of course, you wouldn't be able to work with these sort of injuries.
Well, not at the time, no. I was in hospital for a couple of months and then some recuperation afterwards. But during that time, I've sort of had to lose my house because I wasn't working.
So it's had a profound effect on your life, not just on that
well,
night.
not just me as well, it's my family. They've all been involved in this and they've all been affected.
DCI, Stuart Murray, you've been working very hard investigating this crime. I mean, it was very nearly a murder investigation.
Well, it's amazing that Derek sat here today, having been strangled to the point of unconsciousness and then set on fire.
What sort of, I mean, maybe this is an impossible question to answer. What sort of person are you looking for? Who would do this?
Well, we're looking for a very violent person, a very, very nasty person, clearly, and someone who's prepared to go to extreme lengths in order to get some money, effectively.
Yeah, for not very much at all, actually. Would it be the case that a person, the sort of person who did this on the night and attacked Derek so viciously, without any thought for his welfare, is likely to do it again, someone else?
Well, that's clearly our fear, not only to bring justice for Derek, but actually to try and prevent any further offences of this nature taking place. And it's likely that the offender has confided either in a close associate or a family member as to the extent of what they've done, and that's the purpose of the appeal this evening, is to try and get those people to come forward and give that information. Because as we mentioned before, someone who's prepared to do this to a stranger is as likely to harm someone close to them.
Well, Derek, I mean, we're talking to a lot of people here tonight. You are slowly rebuilding your life, but it's been a long, painful, slow process. What would it mean to you to get the guy who did this?
Well, for me, it'd be peace of mind knowing that he's not out there, but also that he can't do it to anybody else.
Thanks very much to you both for taking the time to join us this evening. If you can help, then please do call us here in the studio, or if you've been a victim of crime, for confidential help and advice, you can call the Victim Support line. It's 0845 30 30 900. Now here's Rav with more faces in the frame.
Right, let's see if you recognise any of this lot. My number 5 is Bradley Okoro. He's wanted in connection with the attempted murder of a man in Huddersfield town centre in 2006. He was charged, but skipped bail in April and has disappeared. So where is he tonight? Next is William Bewley. He's wanted for 2 serious knife attacks on a woman in Barking, East London. Bewley's 46 and has extensive tattoos covering his body. Number 7 is Andrew Doyle. He's wanted for a string of serious assaults in Liverpool. He's believed to be extremely violent and may be carrying weapons. Doyle also goes by the names Ian Edwards, Ted Doyle and Mark Lead. And our last man, number 8, is a Geelong Bow. Police want to speak to him in connection with the death of a 67-year-old woman who was killed when a car hit her in Camberwell last year. Bow was charged with death by dangerous driving but failed to show up at court. He's 21 and originally from China. So get dialing the numbers on your screen now, or you can text us, remember, on 63399. Just type crime, space, and then your message. Don't forget to leave that space or your message won't get through.
Now, we've had a couple of very interesting calls on this Dorothy Lydon rape and murder. You remember that was way back 1971. 2 interesting calls. You remember DNA is going to be the key to this. Do call in if you think you've got a name. Each month we go behind the scenes of a major crime to reveal how police got their man. Tonight, it's the case of the Tesco bomber, an extortionist obsessed with money and strange secret codes. He demanded millions of pounds, but was caught thanks to a fire at a local post box. Matthew takes up the story.
Involved in a number of unusual and complex cases, but this has got to be unique. It went on for 6 months, and if people talk to me about a case, it's always about the Tesco's bombing.
This is the story of bombs, secret codes, and how detectives tracked down the blackmailer who took on Tesco.
It was this superstore that was to be at the heart of the largest extortion campaign Dorset police had ever tackled.
Morning.
Morning.
Cheers. See you tomorrow.
It all began when the store manager received a threatening letter.
It's a really unusual case. You know, it was strange demands. The demands were very technical. The demand was effectively for millions of pounds. It was against Tesco's and was effectively threatening to bomb people. The letters always started with the words "without prejudice." This was spelt wrong, and the bomber always ended it with the code word "Sally."
Police procedure is to assume that the threat is genuine. In most cases, it turns out not to be. But detectives soon realised that these were not idle threats. The bomber, Sally, had to be taken seriously.
I remember that day very well. It was the phone call I was dreading. A letter bomb had been sent and it had been received by a 70-year-old man.
Yesterday morning, a small parcel was delivered without prior warning. The package contained a small device which was designed to activate on being opened. So we have here a mock-up of the packages that were received.
When he opened it, there was a loud bang and smoke.
Luckily, the elderly man wasn't hurt, but Sally had stepped up her campaign. Within the next 24 hours, 3 more letter bombs and numerous threatening letters were sent to Tesco customers.
Dorset police mounted a large operation in the same part of town after claims that a device had been planted in someone's garden. Today,
Bournemouth had never seen anything like it.
Advising members of the public to be extremely vigilant.
The town was under siege.
The risk of someone getting hurt was increasing fast. Detectives needed a lucky break, and they got one, bizarrely, thanks to vandalism at this postbox.
Someone had set fire to the postbox, and the letters inside were badly damaged. One of those letters was for Tesco and had been sent by the bomber.
To this day, police don't know who set fire to this postbox, but with over 1,000 postboxes in Bournemouth, detectives now knew this one was being used by Sally. So they surrounded it with secret cameras. If the bomber returned, they'd be caught on camera.
For 3 months, police checked every letter posted to the box, but Sally had stopped using it. Despite this setback, police were still in touch with the bomber. Posing as Tesco bosses, they were able to communicate via the classified sections in the Bournemouth Echo.
Sal, we haven't heard from you. Please write or phone my number.
Are you not understanding the problems I'm trying to tell you about? You told me how I could reach you.
I'm not reluctant. Doing all I can, but finding it difficult to do as much.
To keep ongoing negotiations a secret, Sally insisted police post further messages using a secret code.
It's a very complex code. I had 10 officers checking it to make sure that it was correct before we sent it out to Sally.
Detectives desperately needed a breakthrough, and 12 weeks after receiving the burnt letter, they got one.
Once again, the bomber returned to the postbox, being watched by the covert cameras.
This was the break we needed. People have comfort zones. There are places that they feel comfortable, and I always knew sooner or later Sally would go back to that postbox.
The problem was 37 other people had also posted letters that day. Police would need to trace and eliminate each and every one of them to catch the bomber.
Within weeks, detectives had eliminated 14 of the 38 possible suspects. It was a sharp-eyed officer that led them to number 15.
Undercover cops were watching the postbox when they spotted one of the remaining suspects.
Hang on.
He walked straight past them, carrying a petrol can.
Yeah, I think that could be him.
They were right. He was one of the 38 suspects they were looking for.
He's going to the petrol station.
Police checked at the local garage, and sure enough, he had bought fuel. This is him on CCTV. He paid by cheque. From that, police got his name and address. It was time to pay him a visit. Would this middle-aged man turn out to be the bomber called Sally?
Mind if we can come in and have a chat?
He clearly looked nervous.
Thank you.
I just asked him where his computer was because that was my part of the elimination process. I put the disk into the computer, which had a program on it, which would search the hard drive for certain phrases, one of them in particular being the misspelt word prejudice.
Mr. Dye, I just want to take a DNA sample.
And then, the moment police had waited months for, a demand letter written by the bomber flashed up on screen.
I can remember sitting there thinking, blimey, we've actually found our man. After finding that, I remember that I called the boss. Because it was in the evening, he was out.
I remember I was in a restaurant having a meal with my wife and I received a phone call. I knew I had teams out there making inquiries, but I thought they were bored and they were just taking the mickey.
And he made comment to me about, I better not be winding him up. But that's not quite what he said.
This was no wind-up. After 6 months, police had their man. This is the moment he was caught on camera, posting one of the threatening letters.
You know, the pressure was tremendous. This man was sending bombs through the post. He was threatening to send further bombs to the post, and to actually solve that case and know that we'd locked the guy up was fantastic.
Sally was, in fact, 51-year-old Robert Dyer, a man who'd gone to extraordinary lengths to avoid detection. He'd put lives at risk and held a town to ransom. At last, though, the man behind the letter bombs and the secret codes was behind bars.
Goodness me, very elaborate this one, wasn't it?
Yeah, the secret code, for example, it was so complicated. When police searched Dyer's house, they found a copy of the code hidden behind the boiler. So every time the police posted a message, he would use that code to decipher what they were saying, and that's how they communicated.
And why Tesco? I mean, did he have a particular grudge for any reason against Tesco?
No, there wasn't a particular reason. I suppose he might have thought big name, easy money. I mean, we know that his business was failing. He was racking up huge debts. If this had worked, he'd have got millions.
Big if, that one. What about the addresses of the people? I mean, he traced these Tesco customers. What was it, from their club cards, or how did he do that?
Yeah, there was the thought perhaps he'd hacked into their database or something like that. Actually, it was incredibly basic. All he'd done was follow customers from the shop back to their houses, and that's where the next letter bomb was actually sent.
Okay, I don't mean to snigger, but Sally, I mean, what was that all about? Why did he call himself Sally?
Yeah, Sally, huge number of theories. I mean, he did say in one interview that he once had a dog called Sally. Could it be that? Well, it's sort of anybody's guess.
And what about his sentence then? How long did he get for this?
Well, 1 count of common assault for the letter bomb that actually went off, and 9 counts of the blackmail, and he was sentenced in the end to 12 years.
Thanks, Matthew. Now, here's Rav with what's been coming in on the phones tonight.
Good response today already. The Lancashire kidnap. Remember, we said this poor lady that was attacked in her home by those 5 guys in ski masks. We've had 11 calls already, including 3 names that have been put forward. And some of those calls have given some information on where the property may be, which is fantastic. Then we showed you the Holsden distraction burglaries. Remember these 3 sickos that you can see now that burgled that poor old lady in her home. We've had 17 calls, lots of names, including the same name has come up several times. More in the update programme to follow.
Now, our phone lines are open until midnight tonight, and indeed from 7:30 tomorrow morning. Crimewatch is going to be back in just over 3 weeks. That's on Tuesday, the 24th of June. Don't go away tonight, though, because we are back after the news with a full update on what's been happening on the phones. It seems to me it's been pretty busy tonight. In addition, our website's got all the very latest on the calls coming in. That's bbc.co.uk/crimewatch. If you can help, but you haven't called in yet, please do it now. It could all be down to you. I'll see you at 10:35 after the news. For now, bye-bye.
Culture is what's going on.
See, I think everything's culture except football.
Dunno. The Culture Show with Ricky Gervais, Simon Armitage and Mark Kermode. Tomorrow at the new time of 10, only on BBC Two.
Now on BBC One, the BBC News with Hugh Edwards and Riz Latif.
Tonight at 10, Gordon Brown won't back down on the controversial extension to the anti-terror laws.